Order. À l'ordre. Mr. Kristian Firth, please remain standing until I invite you to be seated. You are attending the bar of the House for being found in contempt for your refusal to answer certain questions and for prevaricating in your answers to other questions before the Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates. You are here today by order of this House for the following purposes. First, to receive an admonishment for your refusal to respond to questions posed to you by the committee. Second, to provide responses to the questions referred to in the committee's 17th report. And third, to respond to supplemental questions. The privileges of the House of Commons are enshrined in the Constitution Act 1867 and the Parliament of Canada Act. This includes the right to institute inquiries and to require the attendance of witnesses. Under the standing orders of this House, they are also exercised by its committees within their respective mandates. These privileges, enjoyed by the House collectively and by members individually, are essential in the discharge of our duties. The House has the power and indeed the obligation to reaffirm them when obstruction or interference impedes the House's proceedings. And for all these reasons, on behalf of the House of Commons, I admonish you. In addition, the House orders you to respond to the questions you refuse to answer in committee, in whole or in part, and to respond to any supplementary questions. I would also like to remind you and everyone listening that everything you say as part of these proceedings is protected by parliamentary privilege and cannot be used against you in any other forum.
On this side of the House, we do not believe that it is appropriate to question Mr. Firth if he is not medically able to participate. We want this to be done in a way that respects the dignity of Parliament. It's medical advice to do something that a doctor believes could harm their treatment and recovery is indeed beneath the dignity of this place. No demonstration of his character, and Canadians should pay careful attention.
You're a bunch of heartless people.
It's not helpful. The Honourable Government House Leader.
I'll repeat the last sentence, Mr. Speaker. The Leader of the Opposition is...
The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Mr.
Sorry,
Chair,
the honourable member from South Surrey, White
Government
Rock.
House Leader is purposely causing disorder in this House.
Right.
You just asked every person here to keep their conduct calm and within the dignity of the House for these extraordinary proceedings. He is saying things that were in a medical certificate that weren't there, because we had House Leaders discussion on this, and now he is using the opportunity to attack the official opposition. This is inappropriate, and it causes discord in this House, and it will cause disruption on a continuing basis. I ask you, Mr. Speaker, to please ask the Government House Leader to conduct himself within the dignity and within the four squares of this extraordinary situation and not continue down this path. Thank you.
I thank the Honourable from South Surrey, White Rock for raising this issue. I see that the Honourable Member from Regina Capel is also rising on his feet for point of order.
Mr. Speaker, on the same point of order, I think it's very important for you to understand how we got here. It is important to know that the witness was offered accommodations that have been granted, and that should there be further accommodations requested in terms of breaks or any type of need to consult with any professional, that we have signaled our absolute cooperation with that. These are very similar to the accommodations that the witness requested when it took months for him to respond to a committee invitation and further summons. These were the same accommodations that were provided when he finally did testify just recently, Mr. Speaker, and that is how we arrived at where we are today. I believe the dignity of this House, the ability for parliamentarians to do their jobs on behalf of taxpayers. On behalf of the taxpayers, many of whom lost every single cent they had during the lockdown, on behalf of the thousands of Canadians who were ordered into quarantine because of this app, it's essential we can...
Thanks. The honourable member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Speaker, the ArriveCan was supposed to cost taxpayers $80,000, but the NDP Liberal government rewarded consultants and insiders who got rich on taxpayer dollars for an app that nobody wanted. The app erroneously forced more than 10,000 people under house arrest. It didn't work, and the Auditor General said it cost at least $60 million. ArriveCan is now under 13 federal investigations. 2 middlemen that do no IT work got rich in a corrupt system under this NDP Liberal government. Some, including the witness today, became multimillionaires. GC Strategies is a 2-person company, and they claim to find people who actually do the work by using LinkedIn. Nearly $20 million for ArriveCan is what they were paid, and roughly $2,500 per hour. They've been paid $100 million since forming GC Strategies just after this Liberal Prime Minister was elected. This is 8 years of this Liberal Prime Minister. The Liberal government has been ordered to collect and recoup all funds paid to ArriveCan contractors and subcontractors that did no work on the ArriveCan app. My question, Speaker, has the government asked Mr. Firth to repay the money paid to GC Strategies on ArriveCan?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, no, they have not.
The honourable member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
The procurement watchdog found numerous examples where GC Strategies, quote, had simply copied and pasted, end quote, information to prove the people GC Strategies found to do work on ArriveCan actually did it. Question, has the government asked GC Strategies to repay the money paid to GC Strategies for ArriveCan?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, the numbers that were provided by the Ombudsman and from Public Works we found were inaccurate when we did our assessments. And secondly, we have not been asked to pay any money back.
The honourable member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
For how many contracts did GC Strategies copy and paste the exact same information?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, we've never copied and pasted to win any contract.
The honourable member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Speaker, we know from committee testimony that Mr. Firth has admitted to doing exactly that. Today, media reports that Mr. Firth's property was raided by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. What crime are they investigating?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, that's correct. There was a search warrant, not an arrest warrant, for my property to obtain electronic goods surrounding the Butler allegations.
The honourable member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
The Royal Canadian Mounted Police have also confirmed that GC Strategies and ArriveCan are under police investigation. Has the RCMP contacted Mr. Firth about those allegations related specifically to this Prime Minister's $60 million Arrive scam?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, the RCMP has only reached out to us regarding Butler.
The honourable member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
In the search of Mr. Firth's home, did the RCMP take only electronic devices, or were there documents, cell phones, or any other information?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, I wasn't at my premises when the search was being taken, so I cannot comment on that. I don't have that information.
The honourable member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Does Mr. Firth know if the property of his partner Darren Anthony has been searched by the RCMP?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, as of this morning, it had not.
The honourable member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
GC Strategies is two guys in a basement taking 30% commissions on multi-million-dollar contracts that they had no value to, but have endorsements from senior NDP Liberal government officials. On the endorsements, question, who was the Government of Canada Chief Information Officer who offered a quote?
Mr. Firth. Mr. Firth, you need time to consult with your counsel.
Yes, please.
The clock is still stopped. Could you please repeat the question of the honourable member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Island and Rideau Lakes?
Speaker, GC Strategies is two guys in a basement taking 30% commissions on multi-million-dollar contracts that they had no value to, but have endorsements from senior NDP Liberal government officials. On
Point of order, the honourable member from New Westminster Burnaby is rising on his feet.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would appreciate the official opposition to approach this with some dignity. There is no NDP Liberal government. So I would expect that he would ask his questions in the appropriate form, please, through you, Mr. Speaker.
I thank the honourable member from New Westminster Burnaby. Indeed, that is the case. I will ask the honourable member if he could just reframe his question. It's a pertinent question as it is. The honourable member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Island, Rideau Lakes.
This company has done no work on the multi-million-dollar contracts that they've been given by this Liberal government, supported by the NDP. On the endorsements on their website, who was the Government of Canada Chief Information Officer who provided an endorsement?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, we gave that information over, and the name was Paul Girard.
The honourable member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Are all of the subcontractors that GC Strategies uses Canadian companies?
Mr. Firth. Can you write it down?
Mr. Speaker, can I get clarification? Is that period or during the ArriveCAN application?
The honourable member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Subcontractors used on Government of Canada contracts.
Mr. Firth.
Every company that we represent and we work with for government contracts have valid Canadian security clearances.
The honourable member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Speaker, not an answer to the question that I asked. Does Mr. Firth have any knowledge or involvement in the reviews for the ArriveCAN app on either the Apple Store or the Google Play Store being artificially amplified or paid for? Any knowledge at all?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, I know those services exist, but I have no knowledge whether or not they are executed.
The honourable member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Island and Rideau Lakes.
Bring my time to the member for Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek, please.
The honourable member from Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek, has 4 minutes left.
Mr. Speaker, the Procurement Ombudsman found that 76% of resources named in bids on the ArriveCAN contracts did no work and were switched out for other companies. He termed this the bait and switch, which is often used to sub out expensive subcontractors for cheaper ones, allowing the middlemen to take home more profit. Did Mr. Firth switch out any of his proposed resources on the ArriveCAN application contracts?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, we were part of the 24% that didn't. Every resource we proposed that were called up for task authorizations were given to the Government of Canada.
The honourable member from Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Mr. Speaker, through you, has Mr. Firth ever engaged in bait and switch in any of his contracts with the Government of Canada?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, we were asked to replace resources all the time, depending on if there's discrepancies with their experience, whether they're not working very well, or whether or not they need to move on to another project. They're contractors, so we replace resources frequently under the guidance of the client.
The honourable member from Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek, but before she continues, I would like to let you know that we've discovered a little discrepancy in the time. She'll have an additional 30 seconds. So she has 3 minutes left on the clock.
Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General found in her ArriveCan report that Mr. Firth sat at the table with public servants to draft the requirements for a contract worth $25 million that he was later awarded and thereby was setting the price. Through you, what are the names of those public servants?
Mr. Firth.
Again, Mr. Speaker, that name was provided in the questions, and the government official's name was Diane Daly.
The honourable member from Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. That is in direct contradiction to the name that was submitted by Mr. Firth as a direct answer to this question from me at a committee last month. Why is the answer changing today?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, the question posed to me was who did I speak with in May of 2022 prior to the contract award? And that was the procurement lady, which was the name I gave. But subsequently, there was a question by Mr. Genius that was posed very similar to the honourable members. And that was who was I engaged with at CBSA when discussing suggestions, and that was Diane Daly.
The honourable member from Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General also found that the CBSA advised KPMG, a multinational consulting firm, that they would be a subcontractor under his two-person middleman company. At committee, the Deputy Auditor General confirmed this would allow Mr. Firth and GC Strategies to take an additional 20% cut of the contract, despite not even doing the work to get them as a subcontractor. How many times have public servants provided him with subcontractors?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. It is common for, once you have an existing contract in place, for a client to engage your services to help bring on a subject matter expert that they wouldn't otherwise have access to, or typically, because contracting takes quite a long time, to actually bring them in if it's a time-sensitive deliverable.
The honourable member from Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek has 30 seconds left.
Mr. Speaker, I will take that to mean that the public servants have provided him with subcontractors many times. Thank you.
Mr. Firth.
Again, Mr. Speaker, I'm not being elusive. I do not know the answer to that question. Actually, no, I don't think I can, Mr. Speaker. Being honest, I don't know the allegations and accusations around the ArriveCan app. We used the first 3 national security exemption contracts. Actually, only 2 of them, the first and the third, was used to build the ArriveCan application. So, again, not being disrespectful, either I don't understand the question, but I think I'm answering it honestly.
Through the chair.
The
Honourable Leader of the Government. We will move on to the Honourable Member for Mégontic-l'Érable. Mr. Speaker, I would like to know first from the witness, what are the Butler allegations that led to the search of the residence by the RCMP?
Mr. Speaker, I'm not aware of the allegations. There were 6 points on the search warrant, and I think they weren't very specific to any specific allegation. But from previous testimonies, I'm understanding that it was fraudulent billing and resume fraud.
The Honourable Member for Mégontic-l'Érable.
Monsieur le Président, le témoin Firth est ici à la suite du scandale libéral de l'application ArriveCan du Premier ministre, une application qui devait coûter 80 000 $, qui en a coûté 60 millions. Est-ce que le gouvernement libéral, qui a versé des dizaines de millions de dollars pour du travail qui n'a pas été fait,
Pay. The Honourable Member for is rising on a point of order. There is no interpretation into English.
The member's question.
May I ask colleagues, was there English translation for the first question?
Witness Firth is here following the Liberal Prime Minister's ArriveCan scandal, an app that was supposed to cost $80,000. It ended up costing $60 million. Did the Liberal government, which was cheated out of tens of millions of dollars for work that wasn't done, ask you to repay it or contact you about how to do it?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, no, I was not contacted.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Witness Firth either refused to answer questions or lied to the Parliamentary Committee after we learned that the Prime Minister's government made him a multimillionaire at the expense of taxpayers. Can the witness confirm that he never lied in the Parliamentary Committee?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, again, acknowledging the fact that I'm being admonished, right, making history right now, I think I've acknowledged the fact I made mistakes in previous committees.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, can Mr. Firth tell us when he lied exactly?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, I don't have the exact information. Again, I'm not being elusive. I just can't allude to which questions and what time and which month.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, I understand that the witness lied on a number of occasions in committee, and that is why we are here today to try to discover the truth. Can Mr. Firth confirm that he avoided naming his sources within the Liberal government to protect his business model, which results from the Liberal government's lax approach to procurement?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, no, I didn't.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Can Mr. Firth confirm that the 3 quotes on the GC Strategies website were anonymous at the request of the authors of those quotes?
Mr. Firth.
I can confirm that was requested.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Did these individuals derive any benefit from allowing GC Strategies to use their comments anonymously?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, no, they did not.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. I apologize for the delay, but my microphone was not turned on, so I didn't hear the answer. The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, I'll be sharing my time with the member for Calgary-Midnapore.
From Calgary-Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Firth just admitted that the RCMP raided his house relative to Bottler AI. When Mr. Firth introduced Bottler AI to his consultant colleague, Mr. Von Brennan, he had them email Mr. Jeremy Broadhurst, the former Chief of Staff for the Minister of Finance and the current Liberal campaign chair. Did Mr. Brennan regularly set up Mr. Firth's contacts with elected officials, ministers, and their chiefs of staff?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, that's news to me. I've never engaged Von Brennan to get any meetings with senior government officials.
The Honourable Member from Calgary-Midnapore.
Mr. Firth aware that Mr. Brennan's wife works for Procurement Canada?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, I was as of the 3rd testimony when that was brought to light, but until then I was not aware of it.
The Honourable Member from Calgary-Midnapore.
What benefits did Mr. Von Brennan provide Mr. Firth for that furthered their professional relationship?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, Von Brennan never provided anything outside of just the work we would give him on a per diem time and material basis for a government department.
The Honourable Member from Calgary-Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Firth submitted that he was meeting with government officials outside of government offices. Where did Mr. Firth meet Paul Girard, former CIO of TBS?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, I've met Paul Girard at Starbucks on 99 Metcalfe.
The Honourable Member from Calgary-Midnapore.
What did Mr. Firth discuss at this meeting?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, with Mr. Girard's position, and I had 2 contracts within his directorate, it was just understanding if how the contracts were going, thanking me for thinking the resources were performing well, understanding if there are any issues, and I think just general Chief Information Officer duties.
The honourable member from Calgary-Midnapore.
Where did Mr. Firth meet Monsieur Philippe Johnston, former CIO at NRC?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, could Baton Rouge, that was underneath where his department was, or it could have been a coffee shop?
The honourable member from Calgary-Midnapore.
What did Mr. Firth discuss at this meeting?
Mr. Firth.
So, Mr. Speaker, at that time is very similar to Mr. Girard. We had contracts within Mr. Johnson's department, and I think it was just a health check on the contracts, making sure that my resources were performing. If they weren't, then they'd let me know this and we'd replace them.
30 seconds left to the honourable member from Calgary-Midnapore.
Mr. Firth has made connections and met with public servants for over a decade, wining and dining them for contracts. Officials became comfortable with the system. Officials allowed Mr. Firth to charge millions because they weren't willing to follow the rules and used Mr. Firth as their way easily out of accountability. Through you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Firth, who are you protecting in this corrupt system?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not protecting anybody. I'm just going about my business like an IT staffing firm does.
The honourable member from Brantford-Brant.
Mr. Speaker, all my questions will be through you. Did Mr. Firth review the content of the search warrant executed on his house yesterday?
Mr. Firth.
Yeah, I skimmed through the 6 pages, yes.
The honourable member from Brantford-Brant.
Did the search warrant specify a forgery pursuant to 366 of the Criminal Code and fraud pursuant to Section 380 of the Criminal Code of Canada?
Mr. Firth.
Again, Mr. Speaker, I skimmed through, and to answer honestly, I cannot give that answer accurately.
The honourable member from Brantford-Brant.
Mr. Firth admitted that he altered 2 resumes, replacing a 2-month internship with 51 months of professional experience. On another occasion, he inflated 7 years of experience to 12. He claimed that this was a mistake. He didn't have consent to manipulate the resumes. Isn't that correct?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, we've mentioned this previously in previous testimonies, but we encourage the RCMP to do an investigation into the Butler allegations, whether it's fraud over 5,000, because we believe it's going to exonerate us.
The honourable member from Brantford-Brant.
He clearly didn't answer the question. I'll move on. How many other times has Mr. Firth altered materials and resumes to the government since 2015?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, it's a common practice to engage with a resource, understand, because not everybody's CV or resume completely aligns with requirements that are coming out. They may have the experience, but we just have to speak with them to qualify that.
The honourable member from Brantford-Brant.
I'm asking for the number, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, I don't have a number.
The honourable member from Brantford-Brant.
Mr. Firth's actions amounted to forgery under the Criminal Code. He altered resumes to secure government contracts, thereby fleecing the Canadian taxpayer. Isn't that correct?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, the allegations regarding the Butler resumes were on a contract that had already been awarded. So these were task authorizations. No contract would have been decided either way by these resumes. It was one business.
The honourable member from Brantford-Brant.
Mr. Firth's actions further constituted a fraud on the Government of Canada. Section 380 of the Code stipulates that everyone who by deceit, falsehood, or other fraudulent means defrauds the public of any property, money, or valuable security. Both offenses are punishable by indictment, and upon conviction, he could face a maximum prison sentence of 10 to 14 years. Is he aware of that?
Mr. Firth.
Again, Mr. Speaker, we're looking forward to the investigation by the RCMP because we believe it'll exonerate us.
I'd like to let the honourable member from Brantford-Brant know that he has 25 seconds left on the clock.
Mr. Firth's actions were not accidental but intentional. This was not a mistake. He knew his resource would not qualify for taxpayer monies without manipulating their experience. Does Mr. Firth think that the Prime Minister or the Liberal Cabinet Minister should be at the bar answering questions today instead of himself, or is he willing to go to jail for them?
The Honourable, Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, can I speak to my counsel, please?
Mr. Firth?
Mr. Speaker, I'm not even sure what the question is there.
Yeah, neither are we.
I wish to inform the honourable member that his time has elapsed. Well, I have to. The honourable member from Brantford Brant, I'd like to inform him, and we will be able to show him this on the record. But actually, by the time you had finished your question, you had already elapsed the time that you had had.
I respect that, Mr. Speaker. He clearly indicated he didn't understand the question. In terms of fairness to Mr. Firth, he should be afforded an opportunity to be rephrasing the question, perhaps slower, so we can understand it and respond accordingly. Point of order.
The honourable member, the honourable deputy government house leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You started off today about talking about the importance of decorum, and I do not think it's appropriate for the member opposite to be challenging the Speaker when the rules, as you expressed them, were very clear. The time has expired. That means we move on to the next person, and he should not be challenging the chair.
I appreciate the intervention from the Deputy Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader. I'm going to take a moment to consult on this matter. The Chair is going to permit the Honourable Member from Brantford Brant to please put a question within 10 seconds so that the witness, Mr. Firth, can answer the question.
Does Mr. Firth think that he should be solely responsible for this scam, or should the Prime Minister, the Liberal cabinet ministers, and certain members of the Liberal backbench should be at this bar facing consequences, legal consequences?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry, and again, I don't want to be elusive. I can't comment on this. That's kind of speculative, and I'm not sure what I can do here.
L'honorable député de Terrebonne. Each recognized party and the Green Party will have 5 minutes. That's from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Firth said today that he was completely unaware of connections between Vaughan Brennan and senior Liberal staffer Jeremy Broadhurst, completely unaware of connections to senior Liberals. But Mr. Firth received a text on February 1st, 2021 that was subsequently reported in the Globe and Mail that specifically described the involvement of the Deputy Prime Minister's office where Broadhurst was Chief of Staff. Does Mr. Firth want to correct his earlier response?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, I have no knowledge. I cannot remember sending that text message.
The Honourable Member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Firth received a text message on February 1st, 2021. It was reported in the Globe and Mail. That report in the Globe and Mail, along with other information, sparked subsequent hearings at the Government Operations Committee. Is Mr. Firth claiming he didn't read that article or the text?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, I cannot remember that text message, and I can't remember that article.
The Honourable Member from Fort Saskatchewan, Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
A final chance to tell the truth. Will the witness tell the House about any connections and relationships between him and Jeremy Broadhurst, or that he is aware of between Vaughan Brennan and Jeremy Broadhurst? He received texts. It's in the Globe and Mail. Will he tell the truth?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, again, I do not know of any communications, or did not remember that text message, or I haven't seen the article.
The Honourable Member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Firth claimed today that it is common practice for clients to request and receive suggestions about the content of RFPs from those who bid on. How many times since 2015 has GC Strategies provided these kinds of suggestions to government clients regarding RFPs that they then bid on?
Mr. Firth.
Again, Mr. Speaker, without being elusive here, I do not have that number. I don't know.
The Honourable Member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Will the witness undertake to provide a response to that question in writing to the Speaker and the Government Operations Committee within 14 days?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, we were kind of spoken to previously. Do we have to provide information to the House?
I'm going to pause the session while I consult the chair. On a point of order.
The witness has asked if he has to provide responses.
Right.
I would submit to you that the whole reason he is here is because he has refused to provide responses. This is why the House is taking this matter so seriously.
So what I understood Mr. Firth to say to the honourable member was that he was asking whether or not he had to provide a response to the Speaker of the House. The point that I was making before in terms of the order that the House had set out, the order that the House had passed, was that what testimony is brought here today will be referred to the committee. The honourable member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Will the witness provide the response in writing to the question I have asked that he claims to be unable to answer? Will he provide it in writing within 14 days to the Speaker and the committee, yes or no?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, yes, I will.
The honourable member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Why did the government go to GC Strategies for this sort of advice? How did GC become a favoured contractor and advisor regarding RFPs to the Government of Canada?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, I got my first contract in 2011 and have done subsequently since by just responding to RFPs. I haven't become, I don't think, I mean, it's flattering to be a recognised person to provide requirements and help for the federal government.
Order. We're looking for members to conduct themselves in a manner that is befitting of this occasion. The honourable member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Speaker, it's very flattering indeed. According to committee testimony, Mr. Firth received $2,600 per hour spent working on ArriveScan. That's substantially more than the earnings of an average NHL player. Very flattering that they came to him for advice. Very flattering that he was paid so much. Does he see this as a reasonable rate of compensation for what he did?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, again, in the testimony, they were quoting hours towards ArriveCan. We had 22 other departments and 20 other contracts we were working at the same time. It's impossible for me to spend 250 hours on one contract when I have to service and maintain other projects with other clients.
The honourable member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Is the witness involved with any other companies?
Mr. Firth.
Just my holdco, that is the 50% owner of GC Strategies.
The honourable member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
What is that holdco, and does it do business with the Government of Canada?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, my holdco is a numbered company that was used to register the name GC Strategies.
The honourable member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Does it do business with the Government of Canada directly?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, it does not.
The honourable member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
The witness discussed the health of contracts outside the office with Paul Gerard, Treasury Board CIO. Did he discuss replacing resources or increasing resources at that time?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, I've had many conversations with Paul Gerard. I can't remember every single one of them.
The honourable member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan only has a brief period of time, but he's been asking very quick questions.
Did he discuss new contracts? And since he claims to be unable to answer that question, will he respond to it in writing as well?
The honourable, sorry, Mr. Firth.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker, I thought I did answer the question.
I'm going to ask the honourable member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan to rephrase the question.
The question was, in meetings outside the office with Paul Gerard, did they discuss replacing resources or increasing resources? Did they discuss new contracts? And if the witness is unable to answer that question, will he provide a response in writing?
Mr. Firth.
I will respond in writing. I don't have all those information and I don't have every conversation with Mr. Gerard catalogued.
Questioning by the member for La Prairie. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
But I'd like to ask Mr. Firth,
Is he a member of any political party? Does he donate to any particular party? Has he been involved in currying favor with any party or political parties in this country?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, no, I have not.
The honourable member from Saanich Gulf Islands.
Aren't you ashamed?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, do I have to answer that?
Yes. Yes, you do.
No, I am not ashamed. I think